Hey everyone, this is Coach Chris Knighton coming back at you with another episode of the Knighton Runs podcast. This is going to be episode 37 today, and I'm continuing my series on essential concepts of marathon training. This is the second episode in that series. In the first episode, number 36 of our podcast, I talked about why finding balance in your training is more important than just working hard. And today I want to elaborate a little bit more on what that looks like when it comes to structuring out your week. So, one of the best things that you can do to improve as a runner is to follow this concept of polarized training, or as I often like to call it, high low training. The way this works is you want to have 2 days of running per week that are a more high intensity, a harder day. Every other day of the week should be really easy. It's primarily supposed to be a restorative kind of run. We call them a recovery run or an easy run to bridge the gap between the two high intensity days that you have each week. Like I mentioned in the previous episode, we don't get stronger by doing hard workouts. We get stronger by doing hard workouts and then giving ourselves the space to recover and heal and grow stronger between those workouts. So it's super critical that you space out your hard workouts appropriately for you to allow yourself that opportunity to heal, recover, and grow stronger before you then kind of beat your body up again with another hard workout, because that's what they do. They beat you up. And if you just do a hard workout every single day, you'll be beat to a pulp. So it's critical that you give yourself the space to rest, restore, and grow stronger. This is why we do high intensity, low intensity training, or polarized training, as it's often called. So, 2 hard days a week. How should this look, right? So, let's say you're training for a marathon. I think the two best approaches you can take if you're training for the marathon is first off, let's think about your long run. And how do you prefer to do your long runs? Do you like to just go out and cover the distance at a relatively comfortable pace? Or do you prefer to do workout style long runs, ones where you're combining speed or marathon pace into the longer run itself? So often you'll hear people talk about doing two hard workouts midweek and then a long run. And I think that's a really good approach. That's actually what I personally prefer to do. Generally, on a Tuesday, I'll do my fastest workout of the week, often a track workout or an interval workout. Could be 5K pace, 10K pace, sometimes even faster, or it could just be a bit faster than marathon pace. Then, generally on a Thursday, sometimes a Friday, I like to do more of a longer tempo workout. So that could be mile repeats around half marathon pace. That could be 20 to 40 minutes of running at a pace that's marathon pace or faster, maybe down to half marathon pace or a bit faster. And then generally, I like to keep my long runs more just about getting in the mileage and extended time on feet and not worry so much about the pace. I tend personally to like to go out and just do the long runs at a comfortable to moderate pace. And if I feel good, I like to progress it a bit over the course of the run. But I don't personally like to really worry about my pace on the long runs. I rather would get in my speed in the shorter runs and then just enjoy the long run for the journey that it is. So that approach, that's commonly called two workouts plus a long run. I like that approach. And here you really, it's the two workouts that are the hard days, and the long run is kind of like a moderately hard day. I mean, if the mileage is gonna wear you down, if just covering the distance is gonna be a hard day for you, then you could do one workout plus the long run. But if you're pretty good at covering mileage and it doesn't really tire you down and it's more speed that wears you out, then in that case, two workouts and a long run is a good approach. The other approach, and this is one that um, I give to some of my athletes, but generally not every week, is one midweek workout and then a long run that has a workout component into it. So I do think for a lot of folks, training at marathon pace is a really good confidence booster. And it certainly is going to make your body well prepared to run marathon pace. You're going to, develop the specific muscular traits and endurance that you're going to need and get your stomach used to taking fuel at marathon pace and your muscles and used to firing at that pace and everything. So doing marathon pace in your long run is helpful. That is pretty challenging though. A lot of times in heavy training, even just doing 6, 8, or 10 miles at marathon pace is pretty hard because you're so tired from everything you've been doing, but it is really helpful. So for many of my athletes, I will give them one midweek workout, maybe on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And then on the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, after they've had 2 or 3 days of easy running in between, I will give them the workout, which is combined with speed work, marathon pace, running, or faster. If I'm giving someone a marathon paced long run or a speed long run, they're only going to get one midweek workout. Okay. If you don't want to necessarily do two fast workouts midweek and then a fast long run. I think for most people that's too much. So really you just want to have 2 fast days per week and the rest all easy, right? So going back to that first example, 2 fast workouts plus an easy-ish long run, that's one option. Or one hard workout midweek plus a hard fast long run. Or if just covering the long run distance is hard for you, generally this is the case with newer runners or runners going into a marathon for the first time and they're not used to running, say, 15, 16 plus miles in one go. The long run, no matter what pace it is going to be hard. So you have the midweek workout and then the weekend long run at any pace. That's going to be sufficient as 2 hard days. When you structure your week like this, and I actually kind of like to alternate these two with most of my athletes. We'll do 2 workouts and an easy long run, and then the next week I'll do one workout midweek and then a hard long run. And I kind of like to alternate that. When you follow this flow, you're getting 2 to 3, we'll say, hard doses of running per week. And then between each of these hard runs, you generally have 2-ish days of recovery, which should be very, very slow jogs. The only speed you're going to want to do on those days is strides or short hill sprints, which are good to do most days of the week, just to touch on your speed and maintain it and keep developing it. But when you allow yourself the space of, let's say, 2-ish days between hard workouts, you're giving yourself the opportunity to improve and to benefit from all the hard work that you're doing. If you don't give yourself enough time between workouts, then when you show up to your next workout and you run it, you're just going to dig yourself deeper into a hole. You're going to beat yourself up more. Your body's not going to get that opportunity to recover. So make sure you're giving yourself enough space. This is very personal from athlete to athlete, and it changes as you age. I'm in my mid 30s now, and I'm already noticing I need a bit more recovery now between workouts than I used to need even just 3 years ago. So the approach that I'm taking with this is either doing slightly shorter workouts or giving myself like an extra day between each workout. Just know that there's no hard and fast rule on this. The key is just that you're finding the right balance in your training between high and low intensity. You're getting in these 2 to 3 hard days a week, and you're giving yourself the space in between. And when you do that and you follow that weekly structure for weeks and weeks and months on end, that's how you turn into an incredibly fast, incredibly strong, and resilient runner. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode on how to structure your running week as you train for the marathon. Really, this is one of the most important things that you can do to improve as a runner, and especially embracing these recovery runs between the harder efforts. If you're new to the show, welcome. I put one of these out every single week. In the middle of this essential concepts of marathon training right now. And for the next episode, I'm going to talk a bit more about the different gears that you may want to train at to stimulate different physiological improvements within yourself. So, what are the different speeds? Why do they matter? What ratios should you think about when, designing a workout? How many miles at different paces should you be running? Why does it matter? We'll talk a bit more about all that in detail in the next episode. But in terms of just structuring your week, 2 days hard, maybe 3 days hard, the rest easy, and you'll be good. Want to give a quick shout out before I go to Elizabeth Scott at the Running Explained podcast. I was just on her show. It came out about a week ago, and we did a really nice conversation over an hour long talking about training for your first marathon. So if you liked listening to what I was talking about here today, we go really deep into that on her podcast. It's the Running Explained podcast. I highly recommend it. She's had a ton of great guests on there. I love it if you'd listen to the episode that I had with her. I think you'll learn a lot. And then you definitely do check out her other episodes and subscribe to that feed. It's one of the best running podcasts that I know about these days, and I'm sure you're going to love it. That's all I got for now. I hope your running is going well, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.